Welcome back at 8:45. TikTok and other social media is very popular with teens and adults, but in addition to all those viral videos, people often post advice. In some cases, some share medical advice or even provide therapy support. Joining us now is Dr. Angela Spurgeon, a licensed psychologist, to talk about just how dangerous these medical and therapy videos can be to our children's mental health. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. This is an important topic to talk about. Can you talk just briefly about the growing concern with mental health concerns in our children these days?
Yeah, so a lot of what I'm seeing in my practice is that these children, teenagers, adolescents, they're turning to social media for a lot of support with their mental health. The challenge with that is they're getting a lot of information that's not necessarily vetted or provided by professionals, and that can cause a lot of problems.
Right, they may be looking for someone that is, of their like mind or something like that, so maybe they can, take some sort of, confidence in that. But when you see these things out there, what kind of things are you seeing in these social media therapy that could potentially be harmful?
So I think what the draw is people feel validated in their concerns. For example, looking up anxiety, they see other people have similar symptoms of anxiety, and so that's reaffirming for them. However, the other side of that is that the information that's provided a lot of times is not necessarily appropriate or accurate. For example, if you have a fever could mean that you have the flu, but the fever could also mean that you have a sinus infection or COVID or a variety of things. So just because someone has the symptoms of a particular diagnosis doesn't mean that that equals the diagnosis.
Right, and then you definitely don't want to try and treat it that way,
right.
Because if you have COVID and you just take Tylenol, maybe
right.
you need something else, right? So, that's a really great point when you consider that. Why is it so important for our kids to get that real sort of medical help because this depression, anxiety, these are real medical issues that should be treated properly.
They should be. Will you repeat your question?
Yeah, no, it's important for them to
yes.
seek actual medical care for something like that and not, maybe take some of this advice that is just coming off the internet.
Right, because trained professionals, we specialize in looking at, the symptoms and associated problems that the child is facing. Is it related to a diagnosis? We need to differentiate, determine what fits into a diagnosis of anxiety, for example, versus a diagnosis of depression. So we're trained in doing that differential diagnosis or looking at 2 different or 3 different disorders.
Sure, and as a parent, you might say, hey, maybe the easiest thing is to take the device out of their hands, and that isn't the solve,
No,
typically too, because that could create
either.
even more anxiety sometimes too.
Right.
So what do you do as a parent?
It's important to moderate. You don't want to do extremes like you mentioned. Going all the way this way or all the way that way is not the answer necessarily. For parents, it's really important to be aware of what your children are looking at. Be aware of how much time they're spending online, because if it's just kind of like something that goes unchecked, they go down those rabbit holes,
right.
and who knows what
We've
they're
all
exploring.
been there, right? Yeah, I guess
Yes.
Be open, be honest,
yes.
right? And there may be some decent advice out there. There may be medical professionals that are using social media, so you really just have to take everything, at face value, and then if you do feel like this is something you're suffering with, then don't be afraid to reach out for actual help.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you so much for joining us.
you.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you.